This conference will now be recorded.
We had stopped it actually when we started accounts payable. You had some doubts with basic accounting and all. So we had stopped it on the time. Okay. So now I'm going to continue that accounts payable. What we had done, we had completed GL, right? And organization structure, GL process we understood. And now we are going to understand how we can do this accounts payable. What is accounts payable? And we will see that. So what does it mean? What is accounts payable? Yes, Arshita and Nagalakshmi.
It is, sir, it is a short-term debt.
Hmm. Okay. What does it mean short-term debt?
We have to pay to the customers or suppliers. For them, for them we received the goods.
Okay, that's nice. Okay, I'm going to give some clarity on that before I start this actual topic. So what we are going to learn here, we are going to learn how we can handle accounts payable process in SAP. So what is accounts payable actually? So whenever we purchase something on credit basis, when you are going to make a payment later stage, then we have to do the accounts payable activity. So here, the first thing is what I mentioned here, like printing and expenses debit to bank. This is what we have done in SAP when we are doing GL process. That means it's a cash and carry purchases. I go to a shop and buy the things and I give them money and I will take the goods to whatever is required to my company. I'm going to take under. Suppose if if I'm doing these purchases on credit basis, what does it mean? So we are going to make it to creditors GL, 1,000 rupees, because we are not debiting bank here, because we are not reducing our money from bank, because we are keeping it on a creditors way. It's a liability account. So why it is liability? A simple logic behind it. Because when you look into the asset side, that means, so in the balance sheet, if you have a cash of some amount, and if you take the stock, the printing and stationery stock or expenses, whatever it is, so that means just printing if you take it. So if I buy it for 200 rupees or 1000 rupees, 1000 rupees will come here and my cash will reduce. That is my bank will reduce. That's it. So the value what I had in my bank, it's converted into stock, printing expenses or some printing values. But now I'm getting the stock, but my bank is not reducing. My bank is not reducing because I'm not paying him. He has a commitment. I can pay it later. If someone is ready to take later stage, right? Why should I pay now only? Right? That's the reason. So that in that case, the value whatever I had in my bank, so that's in liability. That means I keep it in creditors GL, 1,000 rupees. So the stock is increased, also my liability increased. In future, that is after for some days, I'm going to debit this creditors GL and they credit my bank GL. What does it mean? Now, so here, so this means reduced to bank is credited and creditors GL debit and credit, it has gone out. This is a short term, whatever you said. This is the where. So that means, so whenever you see this entry, you see here, bank credit to printing debit to bank creditor. Creditors here once it's credited and then it debit. It's knocked off. So in between for few days, as I have not paid the money on time. That means like and I pay it. So I kept it as in liability that I have to pay him. So once I paid, I knocked off my bank. Ultimately, it left with bank and printing and expenses debit to bank only. Hope you're getting my point. That means the
Yes, sir.
creditors GL is in the GL which collects the data like the liabilities whichever I want to pay to the vendor, it will collect and it will make a payment to later stage it will not work. Are you getting my point? What is accounts payable? Very simple logic. Is it clear? Nagalakshmi Arshita?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Nice. So now we get one challenge here. See, if I'm like think of it. So my creditors GL, it's showing. Let me take 1 lakh rupees, a big amount. So here I want to make a payment of vendor one, vendor two, vendor three. I have bought from here 10,000 rupees, 50,000 rupees, and 40,000. Like this, I have these three vendors I have to give. The total value is showing here. The total value of the creditors here is showing 1 lakh. So it's a breakup. Like I have to pay to the three vendors. So one is 10,000, 50,000, and 40,000. So three vendors total is 1 lakh. So what I'm trying to tell here, see, if I maintain the creditors GL here, if I want a breakup to like the vendor wise, how much I want to give to the vendor one, vendor two, vendor three. If I want that breakup, so how can I get that? So I need to go to the GL. I need to search each vendor's details, and I need to get the money. So details report. If I want a report, so vendor wise creditors breakup, creditors GL whatever it's showing total amount. Vendor wise if I want, how can I show that? So it's very difficult to find creditors GL every time whenever we see that. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
That's the reason what we do to avoid this confusion. We maintain a separate account for vendors, not a GL account. Remember, vendor account is not a GL account. GL is for whatever creditors GL I said, right? The GLs which we use it for to make where like this P&L account and balance sheet. So here we are going to create separate account for each vendor that we call it as vendor accounts. Okay, that we call it as vendor accounts. So each vendor account will be connected to creditors account. That means creditors account, it's a GL account, balance sheet GL account, which totals individual vendors due. Are you getting my point? Creditors account will show the total account, total value of how much we have to give to each vendor. So individually we maintain and we connect to the totals accounts will get updated to creditors still. So in balance sheet, when you look at here, I cannot show okay vendor one, vendor two, vendor three. Like this, I cannot show in balance sheet because if I have 1 lakh vendors or 10,000 vendors, I cannot create 10,000 GL accounts here for each vendor. So the totals will show here and individual accounts we maintain separately. So that we individual accounts we call it vendor account. It's not a GL account. Remember. So that is totals will be shown in creditors account. This is the logic. Are you clear with this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now we'll move to creditors. So that means what? Individual accounts. What does it? These individual accounts we call in SAP. In SAP vendor accounts called subledgers, subledgers or subsidiary ledgers. Both are same. In short, we call it ledgers. In this creditors account, in SAP, creditors account called reconciliation GL. Reconciliation, so GL, or in short, recon GL. Okay, recon GL. What does it mean, reconciliation GL? It's in creditors GL, which totals up, that's creditors GL, we call it a reconciliation GL. So whenever somebody asks you what is reconciliation GL, it's a GL account which collects the individual vendors total, that we call it as reconciliation GL. Creditors GL is also called reconciliation GL in SAP. Hope it's clear. So the
Yes,
concept
sir.
is clear, right? Yeah. So now let us move to one sec, please. Yes. So the thing to do this activity, um, yes, we have to do some configuration steps. Again, the same concept. So for accounts payable, just like when the GL account we have done, right? We have to do these three steps again for accounts payable process. To learn the accounts payable process in SAP, we have to do the same. So one is configuration first. Configuration means we should do vendor configuration. Then we should do the master data. That means we should create vendor accounts. Then entries means the entries whichever I showed you. This first we have to book the entries and we have to make the payment. So that is entries of general entry, that is vendor or else accounts payable entries. So these three things which we have to do. So what is vendor configurations? Let us see the steps. There are three steps to be done for vendor configuration. Okay, so that I already have this step-by-step notes. So whichever I just explained, okay, vendor configuration, I mentioned the same thing here. This document explains about the vendor configuration. Introduction, just as I said, when a business makes the purchases on credit basis, then it needs to be accounted as credit purchases. Entries relating to the credit purchases are like invoice booking entry, just I mentioned that printing and stationery the same way. It is purchases debit here and vendor account supply here. And payment entry is this one. Just now whatever I explained in Excel. So that means here we are going to do this activity like this. So instead of using creditors account, we do the vendor account here. Individual vendor account, whatever we have. Vendor account, credit. Same thing. That as I mentioned below, it's going to be connected to creditors account. It totals up individual vendors. So here, note in SAP, vendor and supplier both terms are used. Here afterwards we use only vendor. That means in interchanging, so SAP used a vendor or supplier, both the names they used. So whenever I say vendor, whenever I say supplier, it's both are same. Okay. So that means here afterwards we are going to use vendor only in SAP. So that means it's by default it's supplier also. In SAP, vendor accounts are treated as subledgers, subsidiary ledgers, also called subledgers. Means for each vendor, individual ledgers are created and each ledger linked to a reconciliation GL, also called recon GL, and that means it's nothing but creditors GL. It is creditors GL. Recon account GLs. Recon means here afterwards I'm going to use recon only. So that means sometimes reconciliation. Recons GLs are GLs which are linked to subledgers. Subledger means vendor account. That means I mentioned. So vendor accounts are treated as subsidiary ledger or subledger means each vendor account, vendor individual like means for each vendor individual ledgers are created. Ledgers account GL not GL ledgers, and each ledgers are linked to reconciliation GL. Reconciliation GLs are which are linked to subledger through which individual subsidiary ledgers totals will reflect in balance sheet. Recon account GLs are balance sheet GLs. Below diagram will show you the how reconciliation GL and subledger works. Or so here we have this is how reconciliation and subledger. Yes, subledger means vendor GL. So the diagram whichever I mentioned in Excel just now, the same thing is explained here. So individual vendor 1, vendor 2, vendor 2, the total creditors GL will show that the creditors GL reconciliation GLs are we call recon GL for vendors. So this GL accumulates the total values of each vendor. So let us start the configuration. So there are three steps to be done for this. Create a vendor reconciliation GL account first. First we have to create a reconciliation GL, that creditors GL. That means we know already we learned how to create a GL account in the first step, master data. Now I require one more GL account. That is reconciliation GL. Create reconciliation GL. So how to create this GL and which one? So it is creditors GL means the group is we have trade payables. That is 150000 to 150099. This is the GL series which we should maintain. That means under this we should create creditors GL. Let us create the first GL 150000 as a creditors GL. How to create that? We know that. So for creating GL account, we should go to FS00. which we already learned in the last class. Let us go and create a GL account 1500. The creditor's GL is, which I'm using now, creditor's GL is 150000. So let us move and create the GL FS00. First, change the company code. If it's different company code is showing. Switch company code here. So our company code is B-21. I already have different GLs. To this, I'm going to add new GL. Go to create. Enter the GL account which you want to create. 150000 150000. Company code is B-21. Okay. As usual, it's a balance sheet GL. And it is trade payables. And you should mention as creditors GL. Creditors GL. And go to control data. As usual, it's a balance sheet. Just you should mention 001 and go to create bank interest. And before that, you should select here reconciliation GL. So then what does it mean? So the GL, whichever is identified as reconciliation GL. So its duty is to collect the totals values of this individual ledgers. Here I'm going to select it as in vendors. K means creditors. In from German language, the pronunciation of ka, it's not C. Creditors, they don't say CRE. They call it from KREDITORS, creditors, like that. So that's the reason they mentioned K here. So vendors. If I select this reconciliation GL account type here K, that means it's going to be a creditors GL. That means it's automatically the values will come from the vendors ledgers. So whenever you select, so have one thing. So when any GL, note, when any GL is created as reconciliation GL or recon GL, field status group should be G067. That means generally for balance sheet, what did I say? So earlier, what did I say for balance sheet? So for balance sheet GL, you should select G001. That's what I mentioned in FS00 in master data creation in the last class. So, but if you select any balance sheet GL as reconciliation GL, then in the create bank interest, you should select G067. You should select G067. What is this G067? It's a reconciliation GL account. It's made for reconciliation GL. That's the reason you should select this and save this. Now my GL has been created here. Whichever is required, it's been created. Now let us start the configuration of vendors. So first step, I should do the configuration of vendor related activities. Then I should create individual vendors. For creating, you have the step-by-step activity here, as mentioned. There are 3 steps to be done for vendor configuration. One is create vendor group and select create vendor group number ranges and assign number ranges to vendor group. What does it mean? So create vendor group means each, like, just I'll explain it manually only. So that means we have to create a group to create a vendor. Just like like GL account group we created. Under that we are creating GL account group we created. Under that we are creating whichever is the required GL. Similarly, we should create a group here. So once it is created, then the second step is select number ranges or create number ranges. Just like what we have done here, we had created a number range. So you are already getting now. So if I want to create any expenses GL, I go here and I just select the number, which number I want to create as a GL account, and like system is accept. Now just now I created trade payables 150000. I create. So like that for vendors also, we should create the group number ranges and assign number ranges. Like what we have done here, while creating group in individually in GL accounts, we created group and we created number range together, but we are doing that activity separately here. First we create group, then we select or create number ranges, then we assign the vendor group. The single step we are going to do it in three, because we need to create a group, vendor group, then we should select the number range and we should assign it. So that means if I create any vendor, so I'm going to create in this number range. So that system will give me the vendor account number, just like a GL account number we have, right? The same way, it will give the vendor account number. Now, let us go on to this. There is paths for every step, the path is mentioned here, but I'm going to use T codes. The step-by-step very clear explanation, like something. So OBD3, where you have to go in the path, and what you should do, the step-by-step, which I'm going to do, show it directly now, all three steps. Okay, so let us move. First, let me create vendor group. The T code for creating vendor group is OBD3. OBD3. New entries, go to new entries. I create like B21V. That means like B-21 we have, right? Hyphen will be new. B means vendor. So that means vendor group for the name of that vendor group for B-21. This is the group ID, and save it. Already something is there, so that I just change this instead of like VB21. I mentioned I just changed because somebody has already used that code, so it's as it's the next way this one demo system. I am going to change this code. That's our choice. We can change whatever we want. Just enter and system accepted and save it. System save it. It is not asking for any TR because I just removed it. I just activate that. Okay. Now I activated that. That will ask for TR. So second step is creating number ranges. Number ranges can be created. The T code for this creating number ranges is XK. T code XKN1. So go to XKN1. So here what we have done in when I was creating number ranges for GL account, we used to create based on the chart of account. That means we used to create whatever we want. But vendor accounts, it's not like that. It is not company code specific. We don't have a platform to create We don't have platform to create individual company code level. That means I cannot maintain at company code level. That means it has a creditors. That means the vendor accounts which we can maintain at client level, we call it. What does it mean? So every company whichever is created in this system, in this particular system, SAP, they should depend on this only. That means it's just like in one well for all the company codes. That means every company code should create the number ranges here only. So if someone is already created, there are many number ranges is already created. I cannot create the same thing. Say for example, here, if I come here, 400 to 419 is created. I cannot create the same. If I want that number range, I should use this 04 for my company. That means I should tell my vendors will follow this number. There is no individually you cannot maintain the number ranges for company code level. I mentioned that here. So click on intervals and select free. If you want to create, you can. So here I cannot create that same. Because see, if I want to create, I can add it and I can create it. But if you want to find which free intervals we have, you go to here, intervals, and you go to check for free intervals. Where you have to go, you have three steps, three buttons. One is display. You can watch whichever is already there. Second one is you can create the new one. Third one is number and status, we call it. So here, if I want to create a new one, I should go here and I should go to intervals and check free intervals. So system will show you which are the intervals which are, so these things the system automatically identify what number range is left you can create. Okay, that means what does it mean? If you already somebody is created, that you cannot create that same. If you want that number only, you should use the same already which is created under this code 04 or something like this. But if you want to create your own, you that means you can go here and do that activity. I mentioned the step here. Vendor group number ranges are at client level, means all company codes which are created in SAP server which you use should create number and select the number in this only. That means in this only means in this I can say in this T codes, or else in this it's a better word, in this only. So it's difficult to find number ranges which are free intervals, the number ranges which are not created. So you like which are not created, so we can use below step to find the free intervals. Just now I showed. Instead, like below steps means I can click on this the third one and go to, that is I mentioned here three steps. Click on this middle button and go to free intervals, and you can find out whichever is options are there, whichever just said. But my suggestion is here, instead is better you select a number range which are already created by others. Note, there is something what is there. In real time, that means when we are doing a project, so as only consultant handle the system, a limited number of company codes, we don't face free intervals issue. We can create whichever the number is which. So here, as many company codes are already, many people work in the same SAP server for practice, so many company codes created, everybody comes and create here. That's the reason you find difficult to find the intervals whatever you required. So it is in real time, we don't face that. You should have that idea. So now I'm going to select an, instead of better select. That means what I'm not going to create any new here. If you want, you can create by following the steps. What I do, I select whichever is I required, a simple number range. Say for example, for my company code, I use this 05 number range. That means this 05 is a code. So which for context, that's 100919912, 1001099 99990. This is the number range. So between this, the number system gives the vendor number. So that I'm going to use this range 05. I selected this. I have not created. Next step is just assign number ranges to vendor groups. Simple step. So that is OBAS. The T code is OBAS. Now I'm going to tell the system OBAS Find the group what you created. I created a group that is VB21. Tell the system for VB21 I'm going to use 05, the number range which I selected, and say. Now I'm getting this TR number. Then three steps done, whichever I said. Okay. So vendor configuration is done. So any doubts, Nagalakshmi, Arshita?
No, sir.
Yes,
Clear
sir.
now?
Yes.
There's something additional we have to do here in SAP. See what happened after introducing S4HANA, the new version which we are learning here. SAP introduced in S4HANA, the version which we are learning here. Introduced concept of BP. Introduced concept of BP. BP means business partner. What does it mean? See, I want to create vendor. Vendor you can create. So, but what SAP says, before creating vendor, provide a BP ID, business partner ID, to each vendors. So, BP IDs maintains vendors personal details like name, address, bank details, tax details, like this. So that means personal details we maintain here. So what does it mean? Suppose just assume that Arshita became the vendor for me. And before creating a vendor ID, I should create a BP ID, business partner ID. I should create a business partner ID. So what I'm going to maintain with is business partner ID. What SAP says, so first identify her as a business partner. That means maintain a business partner ID for us, where you maintain these general details. Then you create a vendor detail. That's what SAP says. To create business partner ID also, we should do the same configure, three steps, whatever we have done, right? Like that, we have to do three steps here. I mentioned here the step for that BP configuration. So why we should do? It's mentioned here. Business partner, any person who deals with the business can be maintained as business partner. Example, vendor and customer. Customer we discuss later. Let us take vendor example. With the introduction of SAP S/4HANA, to create vendor customers is mandatory. A business partner code to be business partner code created to be created. Then business BP code should be extended as vendor. That means we should tell the system it's in vendor. Concept of BP. Any vendor or customer given with the BP code before creating a vendor as a vendor or customer. So a BP code which maintains general data of vendors and customers like name, address, bank, etc. It's required BP configurations to be done. There are two steps to be done, but two steps include the three steps. One is again just like what we have done, like we were in the previous steps. What we have done, we created vendor group, then we selected number range, then we assign the number range to the vendor group. Here also, but we do first number range creation, that is define number ranges, and create BP group. Then together we assign the number range. There we have done three steps. Here we do the same three steps. So why should I do that? Get the idea. So the simple concept is you should create first BPID for the vendor, then you should make vendor ID. Vendor create. We should create vendor account. That's what the business partner concept. Again, define number range. Just like vendor number range or numbers to vendor, to create BP code number range are required. When BP created, vendor or customer system generates the BP code from this number. That means the same BP code is generated. BP number ranges are client level. Just the same example which I said, which I had given for vendor. So BP number ranges are client level. Means all company codes which are created in SAP server, which you should, which use, which you use should create number and select. That means SAP server which you use should create number and select the number ranges in this only. That means only one database. So it's difficult to find the number ranges which are free intervals. Means the number ranges, the same concept, which are asset for vendors. Now what we should do? First number ranges. My suggestion is do not go for number range selection, that's creation. If you want, you can create by finding the free intervals, but you can select the number range whichever you want. I'm going to select the number range directly by going this. There is no T code for this. You are not getting the T code. There's only path for this. Go here path and define the number ranges. Go to SPRO, IMG, go to financial, enterprise structure and definition. Sorry, not enterprise structure, I'm sorry. Cross application components, business partner, SAP business partner, basic settings, number range and groupings here. Define number ranges and define groupings and assign number ranges. The two steps which you should do. So the path which I mentioned is clearly mentioned here, which I had gone. So first number range. My suggestion, you can create your own by clicking on this third button and you can create one by free intervals. But my suggestion, don't go for it. You can select whichever you want. So now I'm going to select this 0, 2 here, or else I'll create, I'll use 17, a big number. Okay, so 17, I select this. I selected, I don't want to create anything. So then I should assign. For assigning, just the next step, the same path just below here. And I should create the group and I should assign. So for creating group, come down, the same path, the second step. Create BP group and assign number ranges. So BP groups are created to maintain BP IDs. Each BP group should be assigned to number ranges which created and selected in previous step. So that means I selected 17. I go here, and when I'm creating BP code, I'm going to create. Go to new entries. I'm going to select B-21. That's the group name itself. BP group for B-21. And the number range, if I create any BP, that should be selected from 17. 17 which I selected in the previous step. Let's save it. That's it. The two steps been complete. Two steps completed now. So this completes two configuration, but there is one final step which is left. This completes. So what is that final step which is left? That comes under actually under accounts payable only. That is here. The final step, accounts payable, where I stop, that is vendor configuration. Synchronize BP group and vendor group. What does it mean? So in this step, so link BP group and vendor group to create vendors. Why should you do this? So how come system will come to know the two group which you created? One is we created the vendor group. Sorry, vendor group we created B21, and BP group we created B-21. How come system will come to know this BP group is belongs to this vendor group? That means we can link it. So we are going to tell the system. That's what we call it as synchronize master group, synchronize BP group and vendor group. So here I'm going to tell the system. So the BP group which I created, so which we can create under this, we can create vendor. I hope that means you are getting my point. So BP group and vendor group, and we are linking it. The path for this: SPRO, cross application component, master data synchronization, customer vendor integration, as a business partner settings for vendor integration, assign keys. It's a big path. I'm going to show that. Go to SPRO from the beginning. I'll come and go to SAP reference IMG, cross application component. So master data synchronization, customer vendor integration, business partner settings for vendor integration, field assignment for vendor integration, assign keys. Here we have this first step, define number assignment for BP to vendor. This is the big part. There is no T code for this, just execute. There is T code is there, but we are not getting which T code it is. Here, go to new entries and tell the system the group B-20, that is BP group, is belongs to B B21 group. That means I just linked it both group and save it. So this step completes the configuration part. We successfully done this configuration. I hope the steps are clear to you and the concept is clear. If you have any doubts and doubts are not cleared, like not by the steps wise, steps we can by practice we can understand, but concept wise. So steps means like what are the T codes which I used, what are the steps which you can follow the notes and you can do it. But are you getting the concept? So BP, what is BP, what is vendor? Two configurations are done. One is vendor configurations, which I want to create vendor. But what SAP says, if you want to create a vendor, you must assign, like first give him a vendor BP ID. BP ID is created to maintain his general data. There are a lot of uses for this. You will come to know in future classes or in future when you start your journey with SAP as a consultant. But right now, what is that? To create a vendor, we should create a BP ID. For creating BP business partner ID, to provide that BP business partner ID to any vendor, I should do that configuration. That configurations I did, and then also I configured vendor configuration. I linked it in the last step. There are 7 steps total. Nagalakshmi, Harshita, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Confident?
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Yes, Nagalakshmi. Yes, Rashita.
Sir, can I do after configuration also can I create creditors GL, sir?
Yes, you can.
Okay, sir.
Because creditors GLs, we are going to use it uh, when we create a vendor. Actually, when we create vendor, we are going to create that. Okay.
Okay, sir.
See what I do now. I create one vendor. Okay. Then you'll get an idea what exactly I'm telling you. What is that? I want to create a like. Why did I do this configuration to create vendor? Why I'm going to create vendor? I want to do the transactions of accounts payable. So now I want to create a vendor accounts. Let me plan what vendors account. Vendor accounts. I'm going to create three vendor accounts. One is Arshita suppliers, then Nagalakshmi or else Naga traders, then Deepa Bliss solutions. Three vendors I am going to create. You'll understand this now. Now, if I want to create these three vendors who are suppliers to me, and I want to make a pay, I want to buy purchase from them. So what I'm going to do to create these vendors, I should use the T codes BP. The BP itself is the T code, business partner, to create vendors. So I'm creating vendor now. What I do first, as I said, first I should create BP ID, then I should make him vendor, make them as vendor. First, Arshita suppliers. Let me take this, or else I take all these three. So see that first I should create BP ID. What should I do? The T code is BP, and I have the steps here. To create vendor supply, to create vendor supplier, first business partner need to be created. Then BP code should extend as vendor. Business partner is created to maintain general data, and this one, as I mentioned already. So the path is not available. I didn't mention the path purposefully. So use BP T code BP only. So go to BP. What you should do, you can refer this for step by step, whichever what I'm doing. I am going to directly do that. So you get this screen. Here, you have to click on this organization. System open up on page. So it's a page to create business partner ID first. First, you should select under which group you are creating this. So come down and you find the group which you created. That is, I created B-21 group. If you come down, you will find it in B series. Here, BI. You should select your group, whatever you created. Then select the title as company. That's a company I'm creating. Arshita Suppliers. Give the name here and also give the same name here in the search term and fill up the address. You can mention whatever the address you want. It's a country is India, and come down, select the language, which language is going to deal with us. So here, after doing this, you see here we have identification here. I can maintain his tax details and other details here. Come down, tax category, tax numbers. Under payment transaction, I can maintain them their bank address, bank details, and like I can maintain this all details, whatever the like the organizations. Once after filling up this basic data I'm filling here, I'm not filling everything, and save this. So when you save this, you'll notice here you will get a number here. That is the business partner ID, which generates the numbers from the series whichever I selected for business. If you remember, I selected 17 year and 05 year. From the series, it will generate. So just like in GL account, what happens? We used to give the number, but in in vendor and vendor account, system generates the number from the number what we selected. Save this. See here, this is the business partner ID. I got a business partner ID for this Arshita. After doing this business partner ID, now I'm supposed to make him as vendor, make her as vendor. What is that? I need to extend here. That means there is a concept of extend BPID into vendor. Means I should tell the system this Arshita is the supplier. Now I maintained, I had given a BPID. So for that, there is a role is there, FLVN00. This is a role we call it. We call this as a role. What does it mean? We have to select this role and tell the system, okay, this is my vendor. Arshita is my vendor. See that how I'm going to do. So first click on this edit button. So that means system is open now to do the activity. Here is a role is there. Select that FLVN00. Don't worry about other roles and all. Just come FLVN00. So whenever you select this, you find this company code that will appear automatically. Click on this company code and it enter your company code here, P-21. Now you see I got the recon account here. So the recon account which I created, that means the total of whatever the transactions which I do, just like this, it will update this creditors here. Just select the go inside and you will find only one GL account, whichever you maintained as a recon account. Vendors creditors GL, that only appear here. Not all the GLs will come. And save this. So whenever you save this, system generates a vendor account here. System generates a vendor account here. That is actually the vendor account. See, this is my vendor account. Now for Arshita, whatever I created, first BPID is this one. This is my vendor account. Let me show this, and the steps are very clearly mentioned. Everything is here. First, you should click on organization, whichever steps I said. I'm going to repeat the same thing that I'm going to show it in this one, and I'll make it a little bit bigger. Select the group which you created and enter the name and address and other things, and come down, enter the language and save it. So system generates a BP code. This is BP code. Then once BP code created, to create vendor, BP code need to be extended as FI. Extend as FI. To extend the this one, you should click on edit button and select the role FLVN00, and the company code will appear here. It was not there before, you see here. So it will appear after selecting that. Click on that company code and enter the company code and then select the recon account and save it. So system generates BP code here. You can notice here the same thing. Now it is possible to get the same number for BP and vendor customer. For getting the same, below points to be met. So that I am going to discuss it later, because those who are curious, like I want BP number and vendor number should be same. That's in reality it will be the same, but here we don't follow that in practice. But I discuss that later. Now I'm going to create one more Naga traders. I'm going to create. First click on organization. Now, once you used, the automatically it will come this BP group. No need to select again. Select company and Naga Traders name and search from Naga Traders and address you can fill up and the language. Then save it. You get this BP code. This is my BP code. You notice here, first one is 81, second one is 82. The series it's keep continuation. That's it, very simple. Now I need to make this Naga Traders as my vendor. Then I need to extend the role. Click on this edit button. Select the role FNVN00. Company code will appear. Click on company code. Select the company code and enter in keyboard. And select the recon account. And save it. System generates one vendor code. And this is my vendor code. Vendor code for Naga traders. So 26, 27, 81, 82 like that. So the next one, Deepa Biz Solutions. Click on organization. Select company and click the name and name here and the address. You can maintain same address or if you want you can maintain different address as well. And select the language below. Save it. This is the BP code. Now I need to make this vendors. Now you see here there is no company code. When I go to edit, now there is no company code. When I select the role, automatically company code will come. Okay. Company code will come. Click on this company code. Select company code and enter in keyboard and select the recon account and save. Three vendors created. And this is our actually, this is our vendor code to do the transactions. If you want to post any transactions or something, that means the transactions which I mentioned here, like this. So the transactions which I mentioned like this, like I do the three transactions for all vendors. All three vendors I maintain. That means for first one, so this is first vendor. The second vendor is 27 and third vendor is 28. And the GL account we already know. It is 510000 and bank account 230000. So these are the entries which we need to learn how to do this in SAP. I hope everybody is clear.
Yes, sir.
Any doubts, any clarification, anything you have, please let me know. Don't be something, okay, let me check this video again and do the things later. Don't think that. Try to understand here only what maximum. So everybody clear?
Yes, sir.
Confident?
Yes, sir.
Nice. So now let us, yes, Nagalakshmi.
Sir, can we do this like can we do the BP role configuration first and next the creditors?
Yes, we can do. We can. We
Okay.
can do. Not a problem. Ultimately, synchronization required both the configuration. That's the main step.
Yes.
Got it?
Yeah.
Yeah. What we do this tomorrow. Okay, because see, it's very new to you, this concept and all. So maybe like if I push everything now only, it's going to be difficult. So you have to practice by tomorrow, this one. So that using this course, I'm going to show you how to do the transactions, and how to make a payment and how to view. And for that, like again, the same things which you're going to apply for account receivables, so that you'll get it faster. Okay, you have to practice till here. At least you have to create 10 or 20 vendors. 20 vendors you have to create. Okay, in two company codes. You have to show it to me tomorrow. You may do the same thing, but you should practice. Correct? Lakshmi and
Yes, sir.
Darshita.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm going to
Yes, sir.
upload this video by night definitely. So probably around 9:30, and you can get the access and you can go ahead. Okay.
Yes, sir.